We've got the regular cloud hosted, which we've been in market for nearly 2 years now. As a VMware hosted solution, we've been with predating VMware with Desktone partners, et cetera, for 7 or 8 years at this point. So it's a fairly mature platform, at least from a desktop sort of platform perspective. And then Horizon Air Hybrid Mode, which is what we've essentially taken the DAS platform and re-architecting that platform a bit to be able to allow it to operate on-prem but be cloud managed. And that's what we're here to sort of talk through. I talked about the evolution here this morning, so I'll go through that. And just to highlight again, this is the Horizon Air sort of family, and really we're today talking about what's down there in the bottom left. I talked about this in the sense that really, if you look at the top here, that's what sort of the standard, sort of when you're looking at a VDI rollout, this is the process that most organizations will go through in terms of an assessment, design, install, deploy. And what we're really trying to do is we're trying to shrink what gets done, shrink the time, and simplify the process in terms of what happens there, right? So really we're looking at an assessment and an order of your infrastructure and the service connecting to the cloud. And actually the demo I have at the end, I'll make sure I keep an eye on the time here, get everyone off to lunch on time, but I also want to make sure I show a demo. I've got sort of the day zero setup demo experience in a demo. So that's what we'll show. Actually, that's step number 2 there is what we will show. And then step 3 is what I would call sort of the day 1, which is, okay, now everything's set up. Now how do I entitle my users with applications, and how do I do my image management and everything else, right? That's with our new unified admin console. So again, on-premise footprint, our goal is to get you into the right sized infrastructure. Part of that is with the assessment. The other part is being able to have sort of a building block architecture where you order, say, 100 desktops, and as you or 200 desktops, whatever you need, you build your infrastructure to your size, and as you grow, you can almost Lego block that architecture where I order another vSAN ready node and another vSAN ready node and expand that cluster. This architecture supports the ability to sort of dynamically expand that infrastructure. The cloud control plane is that new technology, the new innovation that we've built that allows us to get to that DevOps model with our desktop platform and have sort of that rolling thunder of features that are coming out, as I mentioned, about a weekly basis to that control plane. Next generation technology in terms of instant clone and the provisioning engine, and then hybrid orchestration, something that is absolutely where we need and want to get to in terms of really introducing this technology, cloud managed on-prem. We have obviously cloud managed, cloud hosted, bringing those together, and then also marrying that with the Horizon product itself as well. I talked about the hardware profile, really going after vSAN ready nodes to start, as well as the EMC VX rail, which is sort of the evolution of the Evo rail. I also mentioned that really the bar is set much higher with Horizon Air Hybrid Mode because we're going after this cost and complexity and really sort of trying to do more to make it easier on the desktop administrator. We can't just on day 1 just go like this and say we're supporting the universe of all hardware specs. We will, over time, we will continue to expand that environment and that universe of supported hardware. That will really start with the whole vSAN ready node infrastructure, and as you can tell, we are focused, at least initially, on hyperconverged. Doesn't mean that's the only thing we're focused on. That was really the best way for us to go at the cost and complexity and get this solution to market. So we've partnered, of course, together with Dell EMC, but once we qualify those, we're opening that. We're going to open up that qualification so that partners can self-qualify. I stopped short of saying we'll have a self-qualification program because that means a whole lot of other things within VMware, but we will enable our partners to essentially put a rubber stamp and say we're qualified or we can be supported with the Horizon Air Hybrid Mode platform. Okay, quickly going through this because I want to get to the technical details here, of course. This is a cloud service. It is subscription. It's a subscription service, right? You're not buying a perpetual license. There is, on the VMware side of this, there is no upfront sort of, big license fee. It is a monthly subscription. Of course, VMware has all different ways that they, can work with customers in terms of, I want to pay for my subscription, annual in advance, and some systems have to do that, right? So we've got a system that can adjust to that. But the point here is it's a subscription service. You buy your hardware, you buy the subscription service, and that gets you moving with Horizon Air hybrid mode. Of course, it's an on-premise deployment, gives you the hybrid orchestration, and again, we're trying to get you started quickly. And quickly is a relative term, but we're trying to accelerate what the situation is today. Again, talking about sort of this layer cake architecture here at the bottom, the green layer is really that hardware infrastructure layer. And so, starting with vSAN ready nodes, hyperconverged infrastructure, we'll also do converge, et cetera, and also, I would add another green block here, which talks about cloud capacity, which is our Horizon Air. And by the way, we're also going to bring our ecosystem of Horizon Air partners and the vCAN network into this fold as well. That will take longer because they're partners that are running the DAS platform and delivering their own service. This augments the Horizon Air service today in the sense that a lot of these they're either specialized regional providers or they're potentially in geos. I'll use Dimension Data as an example. Dimension Data is a big DAS partner. They're located in New Zealand. New Zealand's not an area we're anywhere near today. We're in Japan and Australia. New Zealand's a different market. A lot of customers want to go through a local partner. I don't think we'll ever have Horizon Air based in New Zealand itself, at least not anytime soon. So just an example, we'll bring those partners into the ecosystem as well. The execution layer, which I'm going to jump into in the next slide here in the middle there, which is really about, this is the DAS platform that we've adapted to work on-prem, side by side, or really in the context of the Horizon Air node, and then the cloud control plane on the top, which I'll dive into that as well. So looking at, this is sort of the next level down view of that Horizon Air node. So everything you see here, these two blocks, on this past slide, it's basically the green and the dark blue, and you see the green and the dark blue here. That's sort of just a blow up of that there. So obviously we have the hardware platform, and then if we look at the next layer up here, which is what I've referred to as the execution engine, right? The core sort of workload engine that lives really in the context of that Horizon Air node. We've got the Horizon Air link, and this actually, the demo is going to show you actually setting up that Horizon Air link and then doing the pairing to the control plane. This is the only thing a customer needs to download on their own when you start the service. This is an OVA that gets downloaded. I've got a slide that talks about this in a moment, but this is an OVA that gets downloaded. You deploy this in vCenter, and then everything else sort of goes about. And the demo will show this. Basically, if you've ever deployed an OVA before, there's sort of a standard workflow to those OVAs. That's exactly what we've done with this to get this thing up and running. The Horizon Air platform, that is the DAS stack as we have it today that we've adapted to the Horizon Air node. The cloud connector is a component that runs within the context of the Horizon Air node that is the glue to the control plane. And so I didn't cover this morning. The way that a Horizon Air node connects to the control plane is a northbound HTTPS connection, right? So it goes out through 443 on the, it should get through every firewall in the world unless it's sort of block everything and only let what's allowed through. You'll see in the demo we actually tell you what you need to open up. If you're in that situation, we tell you very specifically the IP addresses of the nodes that run the cloud connector. But anyway, this is a northbound connection. So if you think of the Horizon Air node as south and the cloud control plane as north, this is a northbound connection from the Horizon Air node to the cloud connector. It opens up a WebSocket, and that allows us to do sort of bidirectional communication over that WebSocket. So it's always established northbound. The cloud control plane never reaches and establishes down through the control plane. It's a key sort of security point to understand. So that's the cloud connector. The instant clone provisioning engine, we sort of talked about that this morning. That is the provisioning. We've built that as a standalone provisioning engine. Literally, as you know, all of our platforms, Horizon Air Hybrid Mode, are all Java-based platforms. We've built that essentially as a few Java libraries that we can plug in and then integrate into the system. And so that's the instant clone provisioning. App volumes, there's actually an app volumes session later today, so I encourage anyone that doesn't know about app volumes. It's not a sort of overall app volumes, introduction to app volumes, but it covers the 3.0, some of the 3.0 items. But app volumes is a key enabling technology that it's an acquisition we did of Cloud Volumes. It sort of allows us to get to this model of dynamically injecting departmentally installed apps, user installed apps, profile into the VM. Because this is an as-a-service model, we've integrated the App Volumes Manager into the stack. By the way, this is all Linux-based technology. There's no Windows Server technology at all here. Remember, this is a remotely managed component. There's no way we can do Windows Server lifecycle management remotely if this was Windows Server technology. And anyone here that knows App Volumes knows that App Volumes has traditionally been a Windows Server architecture. We've completely ported that over to a Linux-based architecture and leveraged the relational database and everything else that's inside of the DAS platform. So we've literally plugged App Volumes Manager into the DAS appliances. And again, that's in a effort to sort of take a lot of those steps away from the administrator. So that's how that's been integrated in. So I mentioned the Horizon Air Link. Just a couple things here. It is standalone, field installable OVF. I mentioned this morning. There's nothing we've done that hooks us to any specific platform. In theory, you can take that Horizon Air Link OVA. It's not supported, but in theory, you could take that Horizon Air Link OVA, deploy it into any vCenter with the right level of vSphere that's running on there, and hook this into the control plane and actually turn that into sort of your own do-it-yourself Horizon Air node. Not supported, right? But my point here is that there's clear line of sight to where we want to go with the hardware support in the platform and the flexibility and being able to support other partners, et cetera, in the ecosystem. So anyway, the Horizon Air Link, when you sign up for an Enzo subscription, Horizon Air Hybrid Mode subscription, you'll actually be entitled to this download. You get it from my VMware. You download it. It's about 750 meg. When you expand it, you'll see this in the demo. It's a little less than 2 gig on disk. And then basically that hooks to the control plane and starts downloading everything, right? So, this is where you would be installing, the connection servers and the security servers and all that stuff with Horizon. This Horizon Air Link hooks you to the control plane. Once it does that, it dynamically or seamlessly pulls everything down and orchestrates the install of the appliances on, within that vCenter vSphere cluster, the vSAN Ready Node cluster that's there. So it all happens behind the scenes, and you'll see this in the demo. Let's see. We talked about just-in-time desktops. I'm gonna sort of rattle through some of this stuff here so we can get to the demo and also leave some time for Q&A here. So. This is actually the top level of that sort of 3-layer cake that's there, so the control plane. And so what we've done is, obviously we've taken a lot of the DAS platform, right? But that DAS platform is all sort of, has tenant management and infrastructure management all together. We've sort of disaggregated that. We've moved some of these components up into the control plane, right? So we have, and it's a full multi-tenant control plane. Everyone hits the same URL, cloud.horizon.vmware.com, and you're greeted with, what we call Astro, or our new unified admin console. As I mentioned earlier today, that admin console is completely API driven. We did that obviously on purpose. We get asked every day about being able to orchestrate and script and automate. So we actually spent a lot of time. This is one of the reasons it's taken actually longer than we all would want, but we have done this in a way, and we've put, the platform already had an API on it, but not every and all function that the UI did was API driven, public API driven. We held a very hard line internally that said all anything Astro does, the admin console, must be public API driven. So that sits up in the control plane, some of the app management, and that control plane unifies all these management. So if you think of what we're doing, you know, UEM has its own admin console, App Volumes has its own admin console, DAS has its own admin console. We've said, look, we're going to take, you know, this unified admin console, and we're going to not only are we going to unify these consoles, we're going to put it in a workflow that makes sense, right? So I want to go create a pool of desktops, right? So I create a pool of desktops, that's working with DAS. I, you know, want to entitle certain applications to those desktops, that's App Volumes. And then there may be some policies I want to attach to that pool of desktops. That's UEM. That's all in not only in the same console, in the same workflow, right? So I don't have a demo of that. I'm actually going to show the day 0 setup, but that would be the day 1 setup. And at some later time, you know, we'll obviously be able to show that as well. But that is the idea here, is moving all of that cloud-based, all that management up into the cloud. And then, you know, these components all communicate with that Horizon Air node via that cloud connector I mentioned, right? So there's an intelligence layer down there. So all calls from the admin console, which again is client side because it's all JavaScript, HTML5 based, AngularJS, calling the API, and then when that API, there's actually this thing called XMP that we've built, and XMP is a Nginx proxy that sits in front of, and it needs to know, oh, is that an API for DAS? Is that an API for App Volumes? Is that an API for, you know, something else? And there's intelligence here that says that's an API for DAS or App Volumes, and I know it's that Horizon Air node over there, and the connector actually routes it down, right? So that's the intelligence we've sort of pushed up into the cloud, and it's, you know, it's a significant investment we've made into sort of unifying this experience, right? You know, I'm not one to throw pot shots, but other, you know, other platforms have been adapted to the cloud, but they've literally just taken the console that was on-prem and they've sort of, you know, remoted it to the cloud, right? We've taken a very different sort of approach to looking at this. The last thing I'll mention on this slide is infrastructure updates, and one of the original goals still is a goal. We've gotten, I would say, partly there, but I've got sort of a high bar of what we want to do is really, the goal was to take over this entire box as an appliance, right? And that's not only the EUC and desktop platform that's in there, but that's vSphere as well, right? And really tightly manage the matrix of supported vSphere versions with the version of the DAS platform that's there and App Volumes Manager that's in there, and really be able to orchestrate that as a singular unit, right? And that's really the end goal, is to turn this thing into a true appliance. And this, you know, I mentioned earlier, you know, we really just need vCenter and vSphere, and, you know, this Horizon Air Link can deploy on there. That much is true, but we can go much deeper with our own software stack and our partners that want to go that much deeper, and really it's one way our partners can differentiate in terms of doing the whole stack. So anyway, that's what infrastructure updates is all about, is being able to orchestrate even the vSphere and vCenter updates and other components that are down there. We talked enough about the unified admin console. We talked about the hybridity of moving workloads back and forth. Sean, in the keynote this morning, mentioned the whole idea of Blast Extreme, and having Blast Extreme and PCRIP and all the same user experience that exists on Horizon exists on Horizon Air hybrid mode as well. I talked about that, so I want to jump to the demo, and what I'll say to sort of tee this up, as I mentioned, this is a day 0 setup demo. It's one video that I've sort of, it's a little less than 7 minutes long. I've split it in half. The first half is deploying Horizon Air Link. The second half is actually, once Horizon Air Link is deployed, it's actually bootstrapping or connecting that to the control plane and what we call sort of pairing it. When we connect to the control plane, there's actually a very secure process that happens in the sense that the first thing that happens is the customer enters their My VMware credentials, and that essentially allows us to hook that piece of hardware to a tenant, right? Your My VMware credentials connect you with an organization within My VMware. So essentially that now allows us to say that Horizon Air node that's down there belongs to tenant Acme. right? And so when you authenticate with the admin console, that's how we sort of have this sort of same URL, cloud.horizon.vmware.com. You actually log in with your My VMware credentials. That gets you to, that now we understand what organization you are, and now we then authenticate you with your own Active Directory from there as well. So, and by the way, your Active Directory doesn't need to be exposed to the internet at all. Again, that cloud connector gives us a secure private connection into on-prem without sort of establishing sort of a site-to-site VPN. So, so that's how that process works. So anyway, this demo will happen in 2 steps. First one is actually deploying that Horizon Air link. So I mentioned this is the Bootstrap VM, 750 megabytes gets downloaded. You deploy it as an OVA using the standard OVF properties onto your vSphere host in your vSAN Ready Node cluster. And then it will stop, and I'll tee up the second part of this. So, and the other thing I'll say, you've got an engineer here. I don't have a marketing team to create these videos. We are working on some sort of marketing-worthy videos. We've got the voice you'll hear in here. His name is Peter Brown. He's our director of engineering. He actually does a good job when we sort of hit milestones in the development process. He actually does videos for internal use, right, to get everyone up to speed. I stole one of those videos to show here. It's actually fairly, considering it's our director of engineering, it's fairly well done. It's his voice that'll be on there, and he does a good job of sort of walking you through the process. So, and certainly if anyone has questions, what they see, we'll cover that. But let me just kick this off.
So here we are. Let's install Horizon Air Link environment for Horizon Air hybrid mode. So here I've downloaded the Horizon Air Link OVA appliance. So let's first log into our vSAN Ready Node into the vSphere web console. And let's go and deploy the OVF template. For this I needed to install the vSphere web client plugin, which I've done previously. Asks us to browse for the OVA package. Select that. Check that all looks okay, which it does. Give it a name, Horizon Air Link, select the data center, that's fine. Choose this host. Choose a data store.
This actually proves you can actually deploy it anywhere, because if this was the vSAN window, you'd see one data store.
In this case we choose a network. I'm okay with DHCP, you can choose static if you prefer, but we're okay to use DHCP. Now we need to enter the root password, which you can choose, but make sure you remember it. And then if you need to configure a proxy for outbound web access, then you need to configure this here. So the proxy server, port, username and password. In this case, I do not need an external, I do not need a proxy to access outside of the corporate LAN, so I can just click next, validate this all looks good, and then power it on after deployment. And we should see that this will now deploy. Okay, so that's now deployed. Launch the console. Here we are, we can see it's deployed, Horizon Air Link version 1, the build number, and it says to continue setup, please navigate to this URL. This is actually the IP address of the Horizon Air Link appliance, so in this case it's retrieved that from DHCP:8443. So we will now continue and navigate to that URL and continue the Horizon Air node setup.
Okay, so that's part one. So what we've done here is we've downloaded that Horizon Air link.
We've deployed it using standard OVF onto vCenter in our vSAN Ready Node cluster, and basically now it's saying to take go to your browser, go to that URL. That URL is a web port on the Horizon Air Link appliance that was just deployed. What happens behind the scenes is that's a local web URL that then reverse proxies actually up to the control plane. So you're going to actually see a GUI of the control plane that's being presented through your local appliance. And so that's when I sort of now progress and we show the second half of the slide here, that's exactly what's happening, is that sort of setup process of now pairing this thing to the control plane, and then it starts downloading all the software. So I'm going to now push that forward.
Right, so here we are. We've now entered that URL as specified by the Horizon Air Link appliance, and it's now asking us to log into the Horizon Air hybrid mode setup. So we now need to log in with our customer username and password, my VMware password, for the account holder for the Horizon Air service. Once we log in, we get greeted with the VMware EULA, end user license agreement, which we need to read, and once we're happy, we accept the terms and conditions. Click next. Then we need to enter our vCenter credentials, and what's going to happen here is the onboarding process will go away and talk to vSphere and extract out some information from vSphere to save doing too much typing. When we click next, it will now go away, and if we've got a valid certificate loaded into vCenter, then this will be skipped, but in this case we've only got a self-signed certificate loaded, so we now need to check the thumbprint and everything looks fine. In this case, yeah, I'm happy that's okay, but you should go away and check that it is actually valid. And now we need to fill in all the details here, so I'll just fill all that in, and I'll speed this up. Okay. Now here it's saying that we need at least 5 addresses in this management range. In this management range here, we actually need 3 addresses. In the desktop network, we need three addresses. So if we make that big enough, everything should be fine. So once that happens, now the appliance starts downloading the binaries from the cloud. There's some more information here that you can look at while this goes on. You can also add an email address here if you want to be alerted when it's finished. The download process will take depends on the network conditions, between 30 and 45 minutes. Once that's happened, it will then build the VMs. Again, this takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Again, there's more information if you want that. You can close the browser at this point. It's purely informational only. Once the building phase is done, it now checks that the cloud can be connected. And if you need more information here, it'll tell you which IP addresses need outbound access and the ports that need opening for that. In this case, you need the Smart Node Manager 1 and 2 need outbound access on port 443. Once the cloud connection has been established, you should see a congratulations screen. And at this point, you can navigate to the cloud.horizon.vmware.com and you can get started. Again, you'll need to first log in with your My VMware credentials. Okay, and that's it. Your smart node should now be onboarded.
So as Peter just mentioned, the actual download.
There's about I'd say about 4 gig of appliances and binaries that get downloaded. 30 to 45 minutes, depends how fast your internet connection is and congestion. And then actually the orchestration of building that environment. So this, is replacing, what someone would normally be installing, sort of the VDI platform happens sort of seamlessly behind the scenes. So about another 30 to 45 minutes to build those VMs, register them together, and do all the other sort of configuration that's required there. So in less than 2 hours, you deploy the Horizon Air Link, you download all the software, and you all the environment is sort of built out for you, and you're left with, that is the Astro console we've been talking about that you're looking at the login prompt for. You're sitting right there ready to go, start building your environment. You can upload your app stacks, you can start creating pools of desktops, work with your gold image. So that is the day zero setup. The only thing that wasn't shown in the day zero setup is the setup of vCenter and vSphere. Initially, that will be sort of the customer will roll that out. We are actually working with the vSAN team is actually putting together, and they're actually going to also provide a seamless way to deploy that Horizon Air Link. So you saw the manual deployment of Horizon Air Link through OVF, actually working with the vSAN team to work this into their infrastructure orchestration to actually automatically deploy that Horizon Air Link. And that's what I was referring to about, we can partner with our internal teams and some external partners as well. If they want to make this a better experience, there's an opportunity to go do that and sort of join these things together. So that's the demo, and I know there's a couple minutes left here for Q&A. I'll hang around, but at this point, I'll sort of open it up if people have questions.
So what would happen if the cloud control plane was decoupled or separated from the rest of the infrastructure on premises?
Good question. So if not everyone heard that, what happens if the control plane access is cut? So one of the things we are very, very careful about doing is making sure that we didn't get into a situation where I have a user on-prem that's trying to get to their desktop on-prem, but if the access to the cloud is broken, interrupted, that they have no path there. So all of the brokering happens locally. All of the management happens in the cloud, right? So all your users will still be able to get to their desktops, no problem. What they wouldn't be able to do is, say, create a new pool of desktops or capture a new app, right? But everything else they can do. So public internet goes down, all your users are on your corporate network, you still have full access to your desktops. Any other questions? All right.
So your VCAN partners that are still using the legacy Horizon Death on-prem, I take it, until you make it so that they can get plugged into the hybrid mode setup. Are you continuing to maintain that platform for them as you proceed here?
Yeah, sure. So questions around our VCAN partners and whether we'll maintain the existing Horizon DAS platform. So I have two answers to that. Number one, we're actually this solution is actually what we're finding is our managed service provider partners actually really like this solution because they don't want to be in the game of hosting the VDI platform. They want to be in the game of doing the desktop management for customers, right? So they actually love this platform because, and a lot of them have, especially some of the SIs, all have practices around optimizing hardware and deploying infrastructure on-prem. So this is like low-hanging fruit for them. They love this because they're able to deliver a service in conjunction with us. We handle the software stack and the cloud service. They handle the infrastructure automation as well as all of the desktop management that's around that, right? So they could even do like the app stack capturing and all of that on behalf of the customer. So that's answer number one. Not exactly what you asked, but it's relevant. To more directly answer your question that you asked, our VCAN partners aren't going anywhere. What will end up happening is, just like we're going to embrace our own Horizon Air cloud hosted into the control plane to have this hybrid access, our VCAN partners likewise will be able to participate as well. Now, VMware will continue to operate this service. We're not going to make sort of the hybrid, the cloud control plane customer installable. We've optimized this around sort of our DevOps model, which means that code goes from development and gets pushed straight into production. There's not a sort of a packaging and handing this over, right, to our partners. And that's been received well actually by the VCAN partners because they want to be in the game of selling the service and operating the infrastructure stack, and we're going to automate the tenant stack and host the components in the control plane. So the vCAN partners will be embraced as part of this as well. And really it actually makes things a lot easier on us because now we're actually going to get to this singular platform, right? Today we have very different release streams because our vCAN partners, our Horizon Air offering updates more rapidly than our vCAN partners, and the control plane will update more rapidly than our Horizon Air service. We actually get the ability to bring all of these together and have a single branch and release stream moving forward. So the world would be a better place once we get sort of the full integration end to end. For all of us, for our partners and for engineering.
So you only support full phones, not ring phones?
Oh, good question. No, it's actually the opposite. So Horizon Air Hybrid Mode uses the new provisioning engine, the new next generation View Composer, which only does link clones. So your persistence actually comes through that app volumes UEM layer that plugs in, right? So Horizon Air in general has always been full clone. Horizon Air Hybrid Mode with the new next generation provisioning engine is actually link clone only. It's highly efficient. And again, you know, one of the challenges with link clones in the past has been sort of that whole life cycle, right? Now with the ability to sort of refresh that and the app volumes UEM technology coming in, we're able to sort of solve a lot of those challenges around sort of replacing those VMs and having that persistence, because before you had that Delta disk and you had to sort of recompose the pool and you lost some settings, and you don't have any of that with this new provisioning engine.
That's the instant clones.
That's the instant clones, yeah. Yeah. Any last questions? All right, well, everyone can go to lunch. Thanks.